You are listening to Adulting with Ebony, a podcast for the awesome weirdos, creatives, seekers, healers, space holders, and personal development veterans who are ready to self-actualize and to take their unique magic to the next level. This is for you if you identify as a spiritual being having a human, physical, and emotional experience and sometimes struggle to focus or know what to trust and what to tune out. I'm your host, Ebony Allard, aka Ebony Alchemy. I'm a neurodivergent modern mystic, author, artist, and facilitator. I'm an international award-winning master coach, certified in multiple brain integration technique and human design. I've been in the personal development, creativity, and entrepreneurship spaces all of my life, and I have special interest in the psycho-spiritual development of human beings that I share by helping you lead yourself to greater empowerment, embodiment, and full self-expression. Stick around to hear raw and real conversations about the reality of adulting, personal growth, self-actualization, and mysticism through the lens of curiosity as I ask, what part of being an adult do you think we all suck at? And what part of being a grown-ass adult are you in awe of? Imagine not being able to see the faces or hear the voices of your loved ones in your mind's eye. Now imagine or consider living a life where your memories are absent, where personal history is nothing more than a blank canvas or a list of facts or other people's stories. It sounds unbelievable, like something from a story or a film, but for my guest in this week's episode, this is exactly how her life is. Sassy Smith is a revolution in the world of coaching. As the founder of the Aphantasia Coaching Academy and a pioneering force in neurodiversity, she is transforming the way that coaches approach their neurodivergent clients. Now, for me, this conversation was hugely informative, and I am like an excited child as I ask her questions and start to talk about my own personal experience and the experience of clients of mine. As most of you know, I only got my diagnoses as neurodivergent, as an ADHD or having ADHD and autism last year at the age of 42. But I have been working with misfits and helping them become maven for the last 10 years. So these conversations about neuroception and understanding the way that your unique mind's eye works and increasing your body intelligence, your overall intelligence is something that I have been hugely passionate about for many, many years, and now have increased vocabulary and language to help people identify where on a spectrum they sit, and that they are not as alone or isolated or quirky or unique potentially as they thought. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not all unique, but there is something hugely empowering about bringing these conversations to the surface and finding each other so that we can support one another in creating a life that is as unique and extraordinary as you are, that genuinely feels as good on the inside as it perhaps looks on the outside. So in this week's episode, this is the one about adulting with Aphantasia. In the patron part, we dive in even deeper. We start to look at the how of navigating life, setting goals, and being an adult with your unique mind's eye. So if you're not yet subscribed to the patron part, please go and do that now. If you're watching as this episode or listening as this episode comes out, there are just 2 more episodes of this season coming, and they are both pretty epic. And then we are having a very, very small, this time, rebrand before launching Series 7 in the new year. I will be tightening my message, recording a new trailer, and honing in on all things adulting with Ebony. And if there's anything that you have particularly loved in this last series or in any of the series of Adulting with Ebony, then please do let me know so that I can make sure we keep that in the seasons going forward. For now, enjoy. Hey, Sassy, thank you so much for coming and joining me. We have been kind of dancing around having this conversation for a little while, and it's always perfect, and the timing is always perfect. And I'm really excited to have a conversation with you because I think many of my listeners will identify with the content that you talk about, your specialism, but perhaps not have known what it is, and potentially have spent much of their childhood, adolescence, maybe even adulthood, thinking that they're not a proper adult because they can't do this thing. So before, what a cliffhanger, right? Before we dive into that, what does adulting or being an adult mean for you?
Well, it's quite interesting because I know we're going to talk about it, but so one of the things about my neurospiciness is that I can't access my memories, my life memories. And so I don't actually remember being a child. And so adulting for me is right now, as I am in this life today, and trying to bring in some playfulness that maybe I would have had as a child. I think I'm very lucky. I'm blessed, and I talk about this a lot. That my memories are stories, and they're stories that other people tell, or that I tell of my life. And my mum tells the most amazing stories of me as a child. And when she tells these stories, I try to bring this precocious, fun, wild sort of child that she describes into who I am now. And I guess that's what adulting means for me. I don't think I know any other way.
Well, in many ways, like you said, that's a blessing. You get to hear and you get to have that and all of those things. And at the same time, my instant response is, that must be really sad. And also, it's not sad if you don't have access to it.
No. Well, I suppose one of the thing about it is that I don't remember anything bad ever happening in my life. That's the flip side of it. I can't remember the traumatic events. I know there have been some. I have that knowing of them, but I can't actually access them. I'm never going to replay them in my head ever again. But yes, not being able to step into and relive life memories can come with a certain tinge of, well, I always call it a certain tinge of grief. When you realize that other people can do this amazing thing of stepping into their wonderful memories and you can't. But I could tell you a story about some of them.
I find this fascinating. And one of the main reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you is, so I only got a diagnosis, ADHD, autism combined last year. So just over a year ago at the age of 42. And I've worked with misfits and what I've called misfits since 2012.
Yeah.
And it's always been very clear to me that I'm different, but a lot of that I presumed and assumed was because of the way that I was brought up and my parents and their drive for a different education and all sorts of things like that.
Yeah.
And I, over the years, have worked with all sorts of people who self-select as misfits or who other themselves, and they tend to fall into the camp of something happened.
Yeah.
And therefore, nowadays we would go, oh, there was a trauma, and that's why you are the way.
Yeah.
And then there's the other camp of, I've just always been like this, and I can't really explain it, and I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah.
Those tend to be the people that I and I remember the first time somebody told me that they had no mind's eye and that they only knew that they had no mind's eye because their wife did.
Yeah.
And I was like, it fascinated me because after my diagnosis, I had a conversation with someone about aphantasia and what it was, and I was going through all of these wonderful terms that we now have names for that
I know.
I was kind of sharing my personal relationship or experience of them. And somebody decided to, very well-meaning, beautifully autistic, said, no, you can't have that. And because I was saying I have an incredible imagination,
Yeah.
Vivid and colourful mind's eye
Yeah.
just will not do anything on command.
Yes.
So I can't do beautiful guided visualizations, because if you tell me to walk down some steps, I can know there are steps there, but I cannot see them.
Yeah.
The frustration I feel with my rebellious mind, no, come on, I really like it, and I just can't. And she was like, you either have one or you don't. And I'm like, I have one, but yet again, it's mind, and it's got a rule of its own. So for very selfish reasons, I wanted to talk to you about that and see whether you could, because this is an area you know far more about than me, some explanation or awareness or insight to, like, what is this condition? Is it a one size fits all? And what do we know about it? And how do you know about it?
So, aphantasia, or aphantasia, depending on how you say it. I prefer aphantasia. That's just for me. Is the inability to conjure images in our minds on demand. And so, yes, we do have these wonderful visual brains, but it's just that we can't access them on purpose. And I often describe it as, you have your laptop and all of the information is in your laptop, and you know all the information is in your laptop, but all of a sudden the screen goes blank. Your laptop is working absolutely perfectly, but you can no longer see what's in your laptop. That's a bit like having aphantasia. It's all there, we just can't access it. And the other thing I often say is, I've got a really, really vivid imagination, but it's just that mine doesn't come with pictures. And of course, subconsciously, it absolutely comes with pictures, because subconsciously, I have the most vivid dreams where I experience all of the senses that I don't have in my mind. And I experience night terrors. And so that's that place between being awake and asleep, the hypnagogic state. And that's the point where our conscious mind is just about to stop working. So our subconscious comes in, but there's enough of the conscious mind to go, hang on a minute, I'm seeing things. Why am I seeing things? And to have those reactions to that. And likewise, at the other end of sleep, you have the hypnopompic state, which, again, for those of us that have aphantasia, is an opportunity for us to see those images that we can't see on demand. And one of the things I've been experimenting with recently is subconscious reprogramming. What I've realized is that if I can get myself to that hypnagogic state, I can start to see those images. But the minute my conscious brain goes, oh, look, there's an image, it's gone. It's like, poof, it just disappears, like in a cloud of smoke or something. And that's what it is. The minute that prefrontal cortex gets involved, we've lost it. We've got no opportunity to create those images.
It's so fascinating to me. So I, as a child, would lucid dream a lot.
Yeah.
And I repeated dreams, and I would see, can I go a bit further? Can I go a bit further? And there were these, I had a land that you accessed by going down the toilet, and at the bottom of the toilet were big black gates, and they would open. It was a whole world, right? And so I'd go further each time, and I could control it. I was conscious, asleep, and I would have this whole thing. In my 30s, I met Charlie Morley, who is a lucid dream, I'm going to go with practitioner. He writes books and he gets people, and he really helps. Actually, he's working with a lot of veterans at the moment.
Yeah.
Lucid dream state. When I started practicing, so consciously going into a dream state or a sleep state, and then he has a lot of techniques that include looking at hands and various other things that you do in there. My sleep quality went out the window. Completely exhausted, and I think it's because I was trying to access my prefrontal cortex whilst asleep. And what you're saying would marry up with that.
And of course we know it takes so much more effort to use our prefrontal cortex. It burns a huge amount of calories. That's why, for those of us who are in our thinking mind more often than our subconscious patterns of thinking and behaviors, why we're so flipping exhausted all the time. Because I one of the things that also comes for me as part of this is that I also don't have an inner monologue. And so I don't have that stream of consciousness. I mean, there's
stop ever and has 10 voices and it's really noisy. And so that I'm like, your life must be so quiet in there.
It's
What's
really
that like?
it's really quiet, except that I do have inner dialogue, and that means that I can have a conversation with myself on purpose.
Okay.
But again, that means I'm in that prefrontal cortex state, and that's my critical thinking, and that's where I'm working things out, and I'm pondering over things, but what I don't have is that kind of stream of consciousness that just kind of floats in, from a meditative point of view. Yeah, I'm kind of the epitome of Zen in my head, although I may not be in my body, and that's that challenge, because of course, even though I don't have the ability to hear, excuse me, the subconscious mind, my body still reacts to it as if I can.
Yeah.
So, that can be quite challenging. But the thing with aphantasia, for anybody who's listening, is that what we know about it is that for some people it's congenital and we were born with it, and I definitely fall into that camp, because I don't have any memory of ever being able to visualize. But I've always had memories of being able to be having night terrors, because they come in a particular pattern for me. And like you, lucid dreaming, always had a repetitive dream, not quite as exciting as yours. Mine was a clay on a potter's wheel, and my job was to slow the wheel down so that the clay couldn't go completely flat, because if it did, that would be bad. Okay. And I was able to control dreams. I could wake up in the morning and having had a wonderful dream, and tell myself that night, I want to finish the dream. I want to carry on where I ended, last time. So I've always been able to do that. But I think it wasn't until I read an article in 2015 that I finally realized that people actually see images in their heads, which is just bonkers. I mean, really, to me, it's just bonkers.
And I totally get it. And I've had these conversations with people where in a room full of people have been like, if I say, imagine an apple, could you each describe what happens?
Yeah.
I have a form of, I've likened it to CLcognizance most of my life, because if you tell me to imagine an apple or get a sense of an apple, I have a sense of an apple and I know that there's an apple.
Yeah.
Do I see it?
No. No, we know about it. Yeah,
I know there's an apple there. And what else do you want me to have there?
Exactly. We know what they are,
So when people are doing the relax part, where they try and make you close your eyes, so I did yoga teacher training many, many years ago. I don't need to close my eyes to imagine, because it makes no difference whether they're closed or open. And that blows some people's minds.
Yeah. Oh, I can quite happily kind of think about something with my eyes open. Yeah, because that's what it is. It's our knowing. It's us having the concept of something. Yeah. It's our understanding of something. It's all very it is all very prefrontal cortex. It is all very in that real thinking part. I was just trying to find a better expression for it, but it's all in that really thinking part.
It is. And one of the things that I have unknowingly done in this remit, in this world, was a lot of the work that I do is asking people, what do you feel? Where do you feel it? Or what are you experiencing? What do you sense? And where are you sensing that? And giving them really, I say, what do you feel? What do you sense? What do you know? And allow them to experience whatever it is and the journey that I'm taking them on in their own way. And I never questioned that. But I do get so annoyed and cannot stay relaxed when someone says, "And what do you see?" Instantly,
I'm gone. They've
nothing.
left me. I'm off. Yeah. Honestly, I think having discovered Aphantasia, I know I do get the way I describe it as this: the minute somebody says that, I'm like, my head starts to tilt. And I'm like,
there's like a tension.
yeah.
No. And so for those who've studied NLP and stuff, right, you don't want to suggest, right? The idea is to allow, you're not leading them to a particular place. People do not realize how bad their language is in terms of sending people to one sensory experience. And I worked with someone who does like past life stuff and Akashic stuff. And I said to her before we went in, I'm only going to work with you, and this is only going to work if you are able to take me on a full body journey. The journeys that I take people on are sensory, they're full body. I involve your head brain, your heart brain, your gut brain, your autonomic nervous system. Your entire body is going to prickle, your hairs are going to stand up, and you will be transported somewhere else. If you can do that for me, yes, I'll give you my money. If not, this is not being horrible or mean. It's just a waste of both of our time. She got me under, and the first thing she said was, "And what do you see?"
You're like, oh, my coat. Oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, and I think that's why I chose to kind of go down the route of what I'm actually doing now, which is teaching people, practitioners, that not all of us can do those things, you know. So for some of us, we can't. It's not just that we can't just see it, but we can't create any of those senses in our minds. And it's not that we can't just do that. I mean, I call it like layering the onion back up. You know, first you in the center, you've got somebody who can't visualize. Now you're just discovering the next layer is which that they can't actually go to any of their other senses. Okay, so we'll try and recall a memory. That's not going to work if they've got SDAM. All right, okay. So let's go to a thought. What are some of the thoughts you're having? Well, I've got a silent mind, so that doesn't work. Okay, we're going to go with feeling. My last resort, I'm going with feeling. And then, because my hand goes up and I say, well, the problem with that is that for some of us, we can't actually access our feelings either because we have alexithymia. And which, for anybody listening who doesn't know, alexithymia is the inability to feel, name, and experience your own feelings, but also to recognize those in other people. And I liken it to when people are able to step into and relive their memories, they also get to relive all those emotions that they were having at the time, if they choose to, if they allow those emotions. Because I can't do that, I'm not exercising the emotion muscle. And so I can be fairly flat. I call it, emotionally flatlining. I can be quite beige when it comes to my emotions. I'm pretty good at, really happy joy or really, really angry, but everything else is just kind of on a flat. And I'm probably the worst person you would want to work with if you don't understand any of those things. And that was my experiences, which is why now I teach about them to coaches and therapists and counselors.
It makes me so happy that you are doing that, because so many of the people that I work with don't know that they don't know what this is, right?
Yes.
Alexithymia, which I've always called alexithymia, and now I know is wrong, so I will say it differently, is something that I used to believe that I had, again, a subtle experience of.
Yes.
And I do think these things are on a spectrum, and I think we're never going to be able to measure how much I can and you can't. But the biggest piece of, I guess, the work that I again have unknowingly been doing for years and now is very conscious is around helping neurospicy folk to interocept and bring neuroception into their whole bodies at their own place, in their own way, using their own language. And I developed the value filter in 2014, which because I went and did my coach training, and we did an NLP values elicitation.
Yeah. And
like the difficult woman that I am, I was difficult until I was autistic, right? Woman that I am, I could not move past this, like, yes, this is an intellectual exercise, but what am I supposed to do with it? And all of you were wandering around with these aspirational words that mean absolutely nothing, and you're not living them, and it's out of integrity. And I what was the point of that? And so then I made the value filter so that people could feel their values in their bodies.
Yeah.
And then when I did later, I came across MBIT, multiple brain integration technique.
Yes. Yeah.
It overlaid this thing that I'd made exactly and perfectly. And then I was like, oh, well, we have core competencies. And our head brain's only job is to make meaning, perceiving, and understand. Yeah. Everything else is happening way below that in a much bigger intelligence. And using then, if we can take repetition, if we can bring in ritual, we can awaken the basal ganglia, which is going to stop this from being so tired.
Yeah.
It's so, I'm, as you can tell, very passionate about this stuff.
I love it.
Training your words, your expertise, the understanding, and it's not so interesting to me to have. It's really interesting to me to give people an experience.
Yeah.
Come away afterwards and they're like, I can feel some stuff.
Yeah, amazing.
You've been gaslit for so many years where someone has said, that's not whatever, right? Like I'm like, I'm happy. Why doesn't your face say it? Like, yeah, okay, this is, but my face doesn't do that. I don't smile. I laugh, or I have a resting face. I don't do smile. Yeah. But I was 5 years old when someone told me I was doing it wrong. And then I spent the rest of my life doing smiling.
Yeah.
And putting a face on my face. And now when I'm doing branding photos and all of this, I'm doing a lot more. There's no face on my face. And I still find it really difficult to look at them because we've not seen very much autistic resting face. Yeah. I'm tired. I'm not engaging in anything. I haven't put animation on my face. And for me, it's really important to start to just bring more context and show more range in this.
Yeah, I love that. And I often catch sight of myself in a mirror as I'm walking past and realize that I'm just blank faced. Although I do often also walk past a mirror and go, oh, that's what I look like. I'd forgotten that's what I look like because I can't see what I look like in my head. So there you go. But the thing about the whole feeling thing is that alexithymia is the one thing that we know is a muscle that we can work on, and I spend quite a lot of time trying to work on that for myself and challenging myself to feel things. And I went on a retreat, my first retreat ever this year. And it was quite weird. I was watching all these women being really vulnerable and thinking, I don't know if I can do that, if I can actually physically do that. And then completely surprised myself on A3 when I turned into a bawling wreck over something. Yeah. And it was, and what was really beautiful about that experience for me was that kind of recognition for the women that I was with, that actually this was a big thing, that I was actually feeling something and it was something big. It was, it turned out to be a really, really beautiful experience. And so I challenged myself to feel all the feels. But what could potentially blow your mind a little bit is that as we are talking, I don't know if I've got legs because I can't see them. So therefore I can't feel them. So when you're talking about this whole body experience, when we do, when people take you through like a yoga nidra and you're like, relax your feet. And if I've got my eyes shut and if I can't see my feet, then I don't know where my feet are. I mean, I know where my feet are logically, they're at the end of my body, but I can't make that connection to my feet unless I can push my foot against something, or I'm, even if I do, you know, tensing and releasing, it's like they don't exist. It's the weirdest thing trying to make that connection, that whole, I guess that, you know, it's the whole interoception. It's like that inner. Clearly I didn't get that memo.
I find that fascinating again, because there must be layer, because as soon as you say it, obviously I'm then like, do I know my feet are there? I'm like, yeah, because I can feel them, but I can feel them because I'm pushing my toes down, and I'm like,
yeah, but if you weren't,
that's too weird and I don't like it, which is why I'm always particularly if I'm concentrating.
yes.
So we're having a conversation and I mustn't drift out the window. So again, it's not conscious. Like I didn't do it on purpose, and I've only just realized that when I do this kind of thing, I put a little pressure on my toes and my feet are arched so that I stay
Grounded
present.
in the yeah, maybe I should try that. I've just gone on tiptoes just just to see.
And so this thing, right? Like, okay, so people always say, make your living your genius. Do the thing that comes naturally to you, right? But if you don't know that it's even a thing,
no,
how are you supposed to do it?
exactly.
Years to even explain. So I have this thing. Someone in my family some time ago said, we're not all as fucking perfect as you, Ebony. And it stuck in my head. And I had never really even realized that anybody saw me that way, right? Because inside my head, I am like, I'm pedaling so hard all of the time, and nobody sees how much work it takes for me to stay in my body, on my seat, focused on you without drifting out the window.
Yeah.
But it had never dawned on me that people didn't know that, and that they might be looking at me in a certain way thinking, she's got it so easy. And it's this whole thing of, again, I had no idea how unaware I was until I became more aware of how unaware I was.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that when I'm teaching coaches about these conditions is that you're going to be coaching people who have these conditions but are completely unaware of it. And that's got to be handled quite gently. And obviously we can't go around diagnosing people, because that would be wrong. But somehow we've got to weave in a conversation around are you actually visualizing? Because you probably think you are, but you're not.
Even that beautiful question, I'm like, oh, you're doing it wrong. Because are you actually visualizing? No.
Yeah, I'm not. But that clarification of, so are you just thinking about the apple, or can you see the apple? You know, and I think if somebody had said that to me pre-2015, I would have said, sorry, I don't understand the question. What do you mean, am I seeing an apple? Can you just explain, what does that even mean? Am I literally supposed to be seeing something in my head here? Yeah. You know, and my husband's complete opposite end of the spectrum. He is a hyperfant. So everything's very visual. We have these little jokes now where he'll say, oh yeah, well, you can probably see that. Oh no, you can't, can you? You know, when we'll be talking about something. We're at that stage of it now where it's all very, it's just become very funny that he's hypervisual and I'm not. And I guess that's the whole opposites attracting, isn't it? And that idea that he can not just remember our wedding day, but can step into and relive the memory of me walking down the aisle towards him and experience it as if he was there, and relive that. And I'm like, I can tell you how much your suit cost, and I can tell you that it was more than my dress and my bridesmaids' dresses. And I can probably tell you a few stories that people have told me or I've told myself about that day. I can tell you what time it is. I can give you all the facts. I can tell you what time it was. I can tell you how much the whole thing cost. I can tell you what, what car I was in. I can, all of that I can do. But can I do that, stepping into that memory, and he can hear the music, and it's just, honestly, it's bananas.
Okay, so when someone was arguing with me, because I was like, I'm sure I'm hypervisual because when I am visualizing, it is hypervisual. Also, each thing has a thing off it. Like every single thought I have is kind of a spider diagram with all of the others, and it takes quite a lot of concentration for me to go no. And when I take ADHD meds, what is kind of amazing is it's all still there.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I get to choose the path I'm walking rather than being squirrel all the time, which is amazing. But if I send my person pictures that are like disappearing pictures, right? So they've got a little bomb on them and he can only look at them once. The problem is, by the time he looks at them, I can't remember what I've sent him. And he can keep that visual memory.
No, how rude. Rude, I think that is.
I have this with visual things. I'm like, tell me how much you love me. And it's like, I told you yesterday. I'm like,
did you? Yeah, no, I can do out of sight, out of mind very, very easily.
Surely it's got a timer on it. It's run out. I can't remember it anymore. So
my brain's got a little bum on it.
Basically, yes.
But that is it. And I had a conversation with somebody because I also talk about the fact that whilst this is not the true for everybody who has aphantasia, it's certainly true for me and some other people I know who have it, that because we don't hold an image of ourselves in our heads, it's very easy to not notice when your weight is going up until you walk past a mirror and go, when did that happen? So because I don't know what my body looks like, but then I catch myself in a mirror maybe and go, oh, that's what my body looks like. I didn't think that's what my body looked like. But somebody who is very visual said to me, well, my representation of myself in my head is how I was when I was in my 20s. And now I'm nearly 60. It's like, well, that must be a real shock when you look in the mirror. So I don't know whether it's better that I don't carry an image, but I do think that does impact on my motivational.
I can totally do that. I can totally relate to that, and I can totally see it. I don't think there is a good and bad, and I really, like, for me personally, one of the things I really try and instill, anyone who's been coached by me has got it tattooed on the inside of their head, right, so they can still see it. It's that thing of there is no right way and there is no wrong way. There is no way. Like I eat more in a day than I should. I cannot remember whether I ate or not. Then someone says, well, are you hungry? And I'm like,
I don't know. Am I?
I just know that I've stopped, and I'm not sure if I've stopped because I need a wee, because I'm bored, because it's late, because I'm tired, because you're asking too many questions and it's too late in the day. I'm just going to sandwich.
I've learned now that if I've picked up my phone, that means I was full.
Okay.
Because my brain it's looking for something else to do now. It's not interested in the food anymore. Because that goes back to that whole thing of being able to feel the feelings, the whole intuitive eating, which I tried and I used to teach other people, which is hilarious. I couldn't do it myself. I couldn't, I know when I'm thirsty. Thirst is one I do very easily because I start to feel tired. But am I hungry? I don't know. Am I full? I don't know. But what I do know is that I've kind of been learning and observing is the minute I pick up my phone, the meal is over.
And I think there's some other really good cues and ways that one of the products I have is called the Manual of Me. and it's a book, and it's bright blue, and it feels nice, and it's got colourful ribbons on the inside, and it's got a load of exercises from me, but it's also got tons of pages where you get to write these sorts of learnings down.
Yeah.
And it's so, the idea is it's so expensive and so pretty that you will keep it and not lose it as a doorstop, but you will actually use it. And because all these informational pieces are actually fascinating.
Absolutely. Yeah. Although I am one of those people who's got like about 50 journals going. I don't know where they are. In fact, to the point now, I ended up moving to an iPad because I love. Yeah. Now the minute you said, and it feels lovely, I'm like, oh, I have a need now. If it feels nice, and then I've got to go and buy a specific pen for it and some coloured pens for it because I need to highlight stuff.
Are you looking at my desk? We could talk forever. What I really want to leave people with, and this is my favourite thing to do, right? Is to get people all worked up and excited, and they're like, now I need to go and check out. So if they want to come and find out more, coach for a therapist or somebody who could come and learn from you, but also if there's someone who's listening to this and they're like, oh my God, you've just described me, this is me, where's the best place for them to come and connect with you and find out more?
Yeah, so probably Instagram. I tend to be more active on Instagram. And so you can find me at the Aphantasia Coaching Academy on Instagram. And although I'm teaching coaches and counselors and therapists, what I've also realized is that there are people who are newly discovering these things who need support. And so I do also provide some coaching support for people just to kind of understand what this all means. And particularly those that then discover the whole memory disorder that goes potentially with it and what that can mean. And so you can find me on Instagram. So the Aphantasia Coaching Academy. Just drop me a DM. If anybody wants to slip into my DMs, I love that expression. You're more than welcome.
I'm going to put all the links and information that you've given me in the show notes. People can click through and find out more on this episode.
Find me on Facebook. Yeah, Sassy Smith, the Aphantasia Coach.
Great. We in the Patreon disappear over into the Patreon part, and I'm going to ask you one more thing, and I think it's going to be around the kind of how, right? Like, so okay, I've realized I am different, or I don't have this. And now what? And so we'll, just a little, if people are listening and they want to come and be a patron, or you are a patron, we're going to go a little bit further into what do I do now that I know, now that I what do I do with it?
Now I'm sitting there going, what? People can
visualize. It's a whole new thing to be anxious about, does it?
Brilliant.